It feels very important to mention off the bat that I hyperfixate a lot. Not just when it comes to games either, just in life. I have issues with attention, and when I'm able to concentrate, it's usually by self-imposed anxiety. Using deadlines to trigger anxiety like a burst of nitrous became a strategy for me in college. It was a winning strategy too, because I graduated magna cum laude despite how unhealthy it was. When I'm doing anything, I'm hardly ever completely absorbed by it until something clicks in my brain, and then it's all that I can think about. If you noticed the title of this video and none of that made it clear what I'm getting at here, collectathons are a dangerous genre for me. When I sat down and thought about it, I couldn't necessarily think about anything that made collectathons good. Since that avenue wasn't working, I thought, why not work it from the other end? What makes collectathons bad? So before we talk about good collectathons, we have to talk about the worst collectathon, and one of the worst games I've ever played, Balan Wonderworld. I'm just fucking with you. Balan Wondercuck is absolutely a collectathon, but the only noteworthy thing to mention is what exactly makes it so frustrating. Sloppy platforming, annoying progress gates, and some of the shittiest power-up design I have ever seen in video games are only the start of Balan Wimbledon's issues. The real reason that the 13 hours it took me to beat the game felt like 100 hours is a twofold issue. The first part of the equation is that the game straight up overstays its welcome. It does show you from the outset how many worlds are in it and how many statues are in each. But unlike a game like Mario Odyssey where there's 999 moons, but you still have the problem of wishing there was more game to play, Balloon overstays its welcome because the gameplay is plain old unfun. That's the crux of this video, and also my theory on the difference between a good collectathon and a great collectathon. Bing bang! Wampus Wang is so horribly received, not just because it is uninspired and the gameplay sucks, but because it never seems to end. Did I actually just beat this fucking video game? No face too. No face. Are you shitting me? What the fuck is this? What the fuck? Come on, dude. Are you kidding me? What is this? What the hell is this? Collectathons at their core are games where you take a single mechanic and then stretch it out over hours. Very rarely are new systems introduced, and when there are new systems, like the costumes in Big Band Wingding or Mario Odyssey, they are simply a spin-off of the main mechanic and they're only there for a second. The real difference between QuickTime Wonderbad and Mario Odyssey is that you could strip the music, the colors, the characters, and the style away from Mario Odyssey and it would still be a fun game. Balan was built on shoddy foundation though. Can't build a castle on quicksand. Now, believe it or not, we aren't talking about any of the games I've mentioned so far. This is not only a conversation about collectathons at large, but a review of two members of that genre. Today, we're talking about Here Comes Nico and Lost Nova. I'm not absolutely sure, and this is not a real review. Now, the main thing I want to point out here is that when you think about something you want to play for a very long time, one of the most common things that'll pop up as far as game length goes is collectathons. Even if the content might be shallow, there's a fucking lot of it. Ubisoft are the kings of putting in endless nothing content to their games, but I'm saving that for another video. I want to start with the game I'm going to have the hardest time looking at critically, because the selling point for the game is different than anything else I'm going to talk about in this video. For some people, it may be great. For some people, it may inspire fear. Lost Nova is a cozy game. You have no idea what I'm talking about. Let me just put it this way. If you've ever experienced anything to do with Undertale or another cute game where the fan base goes a little too far, that's what you should be scared of.
How dare you hit me? Now I'm offended by you. Now I'm very angry. Just look at my angry face. Now I have Attack 99 Defense 99 because I'm Sans Face too!
Think Animal Crossing, think Stardew Valley, think Harvest Moon. While personally I love all of these games, they are the creme de la creme of cozy games. As soon as you start looking a little bit deeper, you unveil a dangerous side of gaming, the cozy exploitation games. The one thing that you see crop up a lot with these cozy games is that there's a large group of the fans that seem to develop an overwhelming dependence on the game and the cute characters in it. If you know anybody that picked up Animal Crossing during the pandemic and then used that instead of therapy, you know what I'm talking about. But Animal Crossing's actually a good game. And that's the difference between that and a game like Princess Farmer. Princess Farmer is a glorified furry version of Candy Crush. The game is by no means awful, but the reviews reveal exactly what the target audience and the selling points of the game are. Reviews where they say things like, the writing is hands down like the actual cutest, which no, it isn't. The game's writing reads like a bad motivational poster, and it's all written in lowercase too, which is fucking annoying, but none of that particularly matters. The game still has almost entirely positive reviews, despite it being really sloppy. I don't feel great shitting on this game, especially because I really like the publisher. They've put out some awesome games recently, like Witchwood and Apico, but I had to talk about a game that falls under the same category as Lost Nova, cozy, and this is a really good example of what the problem with these games is. The worst part about cozy games for me is that I actually really enjoy them, but it's also an absurdly hard game to get a read on without playing it yourself. The biggest problem with Steam reviews is that fucking idiots can write them. People that just want to see cute pixel art characters are going to upvote the game and leave a positive review, even if the game is kind of shit. This is what I mean when I say cozy games are hard to get a read on. A good chunk of people that are reviewing these games could give a rat's ass what the actual game is like. Now, when talking about Lost Nova, you have yourself a cozy, indie collectathon, which is the trifecta of being difficult to find a real review for. With indie games, you get a lot of people that get the game for free because they have a connection with the developer, and then they just suck the game's dick. I got both of the games we're reviewing today for free as well. But if you really have any doubts about me, jerking off a developer just because they gave me a game for free, I'm going to point you in the direction of this video where I spent 48 minutes lambasting against Tormented Souls, a game I got for free. Lost Nova, when you dig into it critically, can be reduced to a game where you wait for stuff to break until your gun overheats, then you wait for your gun to cool down and go back to waiting for stuff to break. So on and so forth, forever. Sounds kind of like No Man's Sky at release, which is not something you want to be compared to. Thankfully, it isn't nearly as bad as No Man's Sky, and to be fair, this is also a one-person team. It's worth mentioning that when I finished this game, I did leave with a positive opinion of it. As time went on, it became more and more forgettable. I actually had to write down some notes, so when I went to make this video, I didn't just forget everything about the game. There isn't anything particularly challenging to do. Even going for the achievements for 100%, the game only took me 4 hours total. If you do end up going for 100% achievements, which I did, and which a lot of people that are in the market for collectathons are going to do, one achievement in particular was made by a Satanist. To complete this achievement, you have to get currency that doubles what it took to beat the entire game, and every single other achievement feels like content padding in a collectathon where by nature the game is content padding. So there's no camera right now because it's the middle of the night and I have to go back and redo this part of the video. I edited the whole goddamn thing out and realized that I went far too easy on a game that basically is not even a game. It's the devs' first game, and they didn't do anything particularly bad besides overcharging for it. I realized as I thought about it that I think Lost Nova is a $5 game, because $5 is something I don't mind losing to support a dev that seems to really believe in their project. I hope that their next project is good on the gameplay side, because there is some clever writing in this, but Lost Nova is not a good game. There isn't gameplay here. It's not even really a game. It's something you experience for 2 hours maximum, and then it fades from your mind. If I wasn't covering Here Comes Nico and talking about collectathons, I wouldn't have even brought Lost Nova up. It's that forgettable. The only reason that Lost Nova even got on my radar in the first place is because the developer of Doomed to Hell retweeted the dev of Lost Nova when it launched, and I caught wind of it. So let me rectify two things at once. First, I want to update a review. Doomed to Hell is not good. I gave it some leeway the first time around because it was the first game I had ever reviewed on the channel, and it did have a really interesting idea in it. I've grown a little bit since then as a reviewer, done a few in-depth reviews like this one, and immediately after putting that review up, I didn't feel great about it. So here's the rub. Doomed to Hell would be fine if it cost $5. The game is way too easy. I beat it on my first try all the way through the final boss. On my second run, which I did only so I would have footage for the review, I even found a glitch that lets you skip the boss's first phase. Basically a well-polished itch.io game, and $12 is a fucking stupid price. Because guess what game you can buy for $15? Enter the Gungeon. Literally one of, if not the best entry into the roguelike genre ever. I rest my case. And I've updated my Steam review with a link to a timestamp to this part of the video. Now, Lost Nova. In a minute or so, you're going to hear past me rip into the game a bit and say it's a $10 game. It's not. It's a $5 game at most if you really, really want to support a first-time dev. And even then, it's throwing money down the toilet. If this were something I was playing on stream instead of offline, I would have been shitting all over it. The game is boring, slow, and written to appeal to the crowd that don't care about games. They just want cozy, feel-good dialogue. That is totally fine and valid for those people. If you're one of them, this game might be for you. For me, that is a cardinal sin, and I don't think anyone who has goo-goo gaga gamer brain and needs things exploding on screen every few seconds are going to be able to stomach it. I love slow games, actually. Grease is one of my favorite games, and I could barely stomach this. The more time passed, the less I liked this, to the point that I felt necessary to come and reinsert a part here, making sure you know the game is not good and is not worth the money. It's an overpriced, underdeveloped game that would have been better as a proof of concept on itch.io than a full game released on Steam. Now, here's the rest of the Lost Nova bit of the video. It's been cut down quite a bit because I spent a lot of time trying to rationalize enjoying myself with the game because I felt bad for knocking on a first-time dev. But I didn't enjoy myself. These might not be real reviews, but I always strive for honesty anytime I make one of these videos, so enjoy the rest of it. Now, the main thing that I come down to with almost every game is it worth your time and is it worth your money? For Lost Nova, it might be worth your time if you really enjoy the cutesy, comfy style of game, but is it worth your money? No. I say this fully aware that this is a small developer and it's his first game, but the game is wickedly overpriced for what's actually there. I understand that it's fighting an uphill battle for him, but when I can compare it to its contemporaries that cost the same price but have a lot more polish and content to them, I simply cannot recommend this game. I unlocked the final cutscene an hour and 45 minutes into the game, and the game only took me 4 hours because I stopped before that final cutscene to go get every other achievement. Only way I would ever recommend a game this short for $15 is if it's an art game, something that you have to experience, something like Grease. Lost Nova is not that kind of game. I don't enjoy dogging on a game made by one dev, but I feel it necessary to say you should not be paying more than like $10 for this game. Now, I said earlier that we're talking about 2 collectathons in this video, and I think it's important to make the same judgments on Here Comes Nico that we've made on Lost Nova. Is this game worth your time? Yeah, I think it's actually quite good. But again, I cannot recommend purchasing this game at full price because the very nature of a collectathon is that it isn't particularly replayable unless you're speedrunning it. Here Comes Nico actually has really fun movement, but as I'll explain, there's a rather severe lack of variety in the game's objectives that hurt its replayability. I also 100% Here Comes Nico because I'm a masochist, and I beat that game in just under 7 hours. I had to Google the location of 2 or 3 collectibles, but for the most part, I found them all myself. It's also worth mentioning that I streamed 3.5 hours of this game, which by nature means you move slower through the game. If I was playing offline, I would have beaten the game in about 3.5 hours, and I could have gotten all the achievements in probably 5.5 to 6. Before I get into any negatives, let me say first and foremost that I went out of my way to email the developer who happened to have one of very, very few review keys left. I was that interested in this game. Hat in Time is one of my favorite platformers, and Here Comes Nico is put out by the same publisher. Disregarding price and everything else, it's a very well-made game with a unique art style for a platformer. The closest thing I can relate it to is Paper Mario, which you wouldn't expect would translate to a platformer very well, but Nico plays fantastically. The art style is easily one of the most charming aspects of this game. Nico is not a precision platformer, but like a lot of the best relaxing platformers, they got the weight and the give to the jumps and the dives just right. You don't need to get anywhere near 100% to beat this game, but it's still noticeable even just playing for the credits that everything starts to repeat itself. That's the major drawback with this one, and the cracks really start to show as you go for 100%, which is why I mention this, because again, people that are in the market for a collectathon also tend to be achievement hunters. Now, when it comes to writing, Here Comes Nico really shines. The characters are cute, but they're also really fucking funny. There were some genuine laugh out loud moments in this one, and I think that elevates it beyond just cute and comfy to something much easier to recommend to anybody that's just a fan of straight up good games. Like I said earlier, this is a really solid game. Post-production Jake again, and really quickly I wanted to interject here and just give you a quick rundown on the point of this video. I really enjoy collectathons, and the best of this genre are always the games where the core gameplay could be stripped of its frills and still be fun. I've shown you a good example of this with Here Comes Nico, and a not so good example of this. That's what you should be looking for. Find some kind of extended gameplay trailer, and don't let the trailers fool you. Lost Nova looks fun in the trailer, but that's all there really is to the game. Collectathons are one of the genres that are filled with an excessive amount of excrement. Seriously, if a game is halfway through production and doesn't know how to make the game longer, collectathon, throw some statues or some coins or some other shit in there and hope no one notices that it isn't really adding anything. Now, the other thing you have to look out for here is price, which is what pre-editing Jake is talking about right here. Like I said earlier, this is a really solid game, and I think it's most definitely worth your time whether or not you like cozy games, but I think it is pretty overpriced for what's there. This is the kind of game you pick up on sale because even though what's there is relatively high quality, it's also repetitive and only lasts so long. When compared to indies of similar quality, this is a very overpriced game. Inscription, one of the best and most atmospheric games I have ever played, is only 20 bucks. I really enjoyed Here Comes Nico, but it's hard to justify grabbing it for a higher price than one of the games that easily makes my top 10 all-time game list. Seriously, if you haven't played it, go fucking play Inscription. Inscription, 20 bucks. Binding of Isaac, 15 bucks. Celeste, 20 bucks. Gungeon, 15 bucks. Here Comes Nico, 25 bucks. Hopefully you'd see my point. But at the end of the day, that's all it is. My point, my opinion, my take. Either of these games look interesting to you, I would recommend at least wishlisting them and grabbing them on a sale. And I'm sure that there might be someone out there that watched some or all of this video that completely disagrees. Lost Nova or Here Comes Nico might be their favorite game, and that's totally fair. Collectathons as a genre are absurdly hard to judge the value of until you play them for yourself. So go play them for yourself, or don't. If you've got opinions, we've got a comment section, and I try to reply to every comment, except if you're the guy that was trying to tell me how mirrors and cyberpunk in real life work on a Resident Evil short. I don't want to respond to you. I also really quickly want to mention, we just hit 200 subs on YouTube, which is massive. I started this channel from nothing, and I haven't really had any like boosts or anything crazy happen to it. It's just been me posting my own content, and you guys have been awesome supporting me. Thank you so much for that, and I'm really looking forward to the future. We have some very cool projects lined up, some collaborations, so if you aren't already, please do subscribe so you don't miss out on that. That being said, I'm not absolutely sure, and this was not a real review.